What is up, everybody? Week 1 just finished in the books. Any thoughts on Week 1 so far?
A lot of unpredicting moments, a lot of shockers, and then a lot of non-shockers.
Yeah. Before we get into the video, make sure you guys like, subscribe, shout us out any way you can. Every ounce of support is greatly appreciated. And let us know how your team won. Either they scored 7 points, after preparing all week, 3 points, 38 like my team. Either way, just let us know, guys. Let's get into it.
Tied up by Green, throws it back up top. James puts up the 3. Oh, it's good! LeBron James from downtown.
We're gonna go ahead and start off with the Monday night game that just ended a few hours ago. Well, man, let's talk about Russ and facing his former team, the Seahawks. They did lose on a game-losing field goal, 16-17. The 12th man kicked in. Let me know what you saw in this game.
First of all, I have to say I'm very surprised that he was booed. I mean, yeah, he kind of did force his way out, but you can't blame the man when a lot of it was really pinned on Pete Carroll. And I think
agree.
deep down Seahawks fans know that. But the things I saw was the Broncos goal line struggles.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I mean, they got there 3 times and only scored 3 points. And when you have Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, I think there's no way. There's literally just no way. And I don't even think the Seahawks have nowhere near a top 10 front 7, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a lot of young guys that they're trying to fill in for the future, which is good. But yes, I think that defense played really hungry tonight. And the Seahawks were surprisingly good to me on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the second half, I know they didn't score any points, but they kind of moved the ball. They kept it away from Russell Wilson and the Broncos a lot. Yes, I believe they only had 1 turnover, and I think it was that DK Metcalf fumble.
Getting stripped.
Which was really surprising to me. I thought a plus was really their own line, which a lot of people had a question
I'm
about.
glad you pointed that out.
And Rashad Penny.
Mm-hmm.
I love him as a running back. He's small. He can get through a lot of things that look closed off for running backs. I feel like he can make a big play. And the Broncos offense, I mean, I thought they would use Hamler a lot more in end arounds or kind of like some trick plays thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just really a lot of checkdowns, a lot of the tight end work, and just that one big play to Judy. And I thought we were going to see a lot more big plays down the field for Sutton and Judy and Hamler as well. But, I mean, it is what it is. It's only week 1, and I think they'll eventually find their groove.
I'm glad you said it's only week 1. I think the biggest thing, when if you look at offenses across the NFL, a lot of offenses that struggle, as you know, going back to even last year, week 1s are very, very weird, right? And them cutting a preseason game kind of leads a lot of offensive players to not play any snaps in the preseason. Now, I'm not saying that it's required, but it does look kind of sloppy week 1 now because a lot of teams just aren't out there at all for at least 1 drive in the preseason.
Yeah.
And the Broncos were a team, they were one of them where they didn't have their offense out for the preseason, and they started off very, very slow like other offenses. But I'm glad you pointed out the Seahawks and their offensive line. I thought it was a struggle, but they did hold on very, very early. Bradley Chubb did kick in, and he was phenomenal tonight. He did have 2 sacks, and I guess he was the one who kind of shifted the momentum for that defensive line. But yeah, Seattle was very surprising to me. Rashad Penny, as you were saying, very physical, very big, and he was, there was a lot of holes open for him tonight. Geno Smith looked great in the first half, only had 1 incompletion, 2 touchdowns. But yeah, I do think this defense for the Broncos, like how we were saying in week 1, in our prediction video, it's a question mark in my opinion. And they were a question mark in the first half, allowing 2 huge plays for touchdowns.
Yes. But
But they did step it up really, really big, only allowing 0 points in the second half. I just think the biggest thing to me is that fourth down play. When you lose the game, you allow your kicker to kick a 64-yarder. And after the game, they did say that was McManus's, this is McManus, right? It was his long. That's the furthest he could kick is 64 yards. But you're paying Russ $200 million to give him the ball in those situations. You want the best player on your team to have the ball. I don't understand why you would even do that. You see the kind of trend that's been going on this week with all the NFL kickers missing chip shots. So you're going to put it in the hands of your kicker and make him kick a 64-yarder. It doesn't make sense, especially when you're in Seattle, one of the most hostile environments in the NFL. You have the best player on your team with the ball in his hands, and you take it out of his hands. And yeah, I just think that was just a big coaching mistake. And I think that they're gonna learn from it. Like you were saying, week 1s are very sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
your two running backs foam out on the goal line. I think that this game was in the Broncos' hands a lot. They just shot themselves in the foot, and it's a very tough game to kind of start off your year with. Anything else you had to say about this game?
Excuse me. Not really. Like I said, it's week 1. Eventually, the Broncos will improve on both sides of the ball, and I just really do want to see more out of the wide receivers.
Yeah. Also, another thing, how you were saying being booed. I think it's ridiculous how the Seahawks fans boo him. I don't think that they really understand that this one's a one-sided. Russ was upset, and he had a right to feel upset about everything that was going on behind his back for the last 4 or 5 years, and it showed. They really produce at all in the playoffs or even be there in the playoffs for the last couple of years. So I don't know why the fans were booing, and Russ deserves better. But going on to the next game, speaking of people who deserve better, my dear friend Aaron Romero is a Dallas Cowboys fan. Keep him in your prayers. Let's go ahead and talk about your team, the Dallas Cowboys. What do you see with their season? And what did you also see with the Bucs?
What do I see with their season? I think it's over already. A lot of the it's only week 1 applies to a lot of teams. And I know the people like to overreact a lot when the Cowboys lose. But this one I think I could say, like, it just might be over. Dak's out 6 to 8 weeks. You have no offensive line. McGovern's out for a while. You have Tyler Smith, a rookie who you drafted to play guard, was practicing left tackle snaps for a month. Granted, he did kind of, he minded his own. He didn't really give up a lot. But even regardless of the injury, I thought Dak looked out of it. When you have 4 people bracketing your number 1 receiver, and they're scared of no one else on that team, it really does say a lot. Jerry in that front office, as they always do, they like to shy away and stay true to their guys, which they really can do, because then it shows on the field how bad those guys you want to stay true to really are. And you need to look into free agency. You also traded your number 1 wide receiver, who
for nothing apparently.
Keep in mind, he did. That man did. I think he had a pretty good week 1 in Amari Cooper. And it hurts. It really does hurt. And I thought the Buccaneers. You asked me about them, right? You said what I thought about them. I think I saw 2 things. I saw their run game is actually a weakness this year, and the second thing I thought it comes with the front 5 again, the offensive line. I think that's a big question. Tom Brady was pressured a lot. He was hit a lot, but that defensive line, I really don't think it's as dangerous as a lot of people think it really is.
I could agree with that. I do think they're a bit overrated, but I do think that they're still one.
And Vita Vea's name was called once yesterday.
Yeah.
Considering the offensive lineman we had, his name was called once yesterday.
Yeah. Before I get into the negatives about this game, about the Cowboys, and even how slow the Bucs looked on offense, I do want to point out some positives. The Dallas Cowboys defense was very good. Even though they weren't getting turnovers as they were last year, they were still very, very good. They were the epitome of bend but don't break, allowing a bunch of yards, but one man, the best player on the field last night, Michael Parsons, he saved 2 touchdowns. 2 sacks on 3rd down, saved the game from being completely blown out, but he was there, he was making plays out of the field, running every time someone had the ball, number 11 was around it. Now, the negatives to this game, the Buccaneers looked very slow on offense. Their red zone offense was pretty bad. And again, I don't want to have a direct correlation to it, but they didn't play a lot in the in preseason. Tom Brady was away for 2 weeks. Their offensive line is very hurt, so I'm going to give them some slack. But for the Cowboys, Jerry Jones, his lack of offseason moves were showing even before the injuries were going on later on in the game. Dak Prescott, 14 of 29, 134 yards, 1 interception. That was pretty bad in my opinion. Ezekiel Elliott had 10 carries for 52 yards. He needs to get the ball more, in my opinion. That's the way. That's what I was saying in our the prediction video. He needs to really be the one to. This team needs to rally behind. Your offensive line is hurt. Your quarterback isn't playing his best. You don't have a lot of weapons on offense besides Zeke, so you need to give him the ball. They didn't do that with him. CeeDee Lamb, two catches for what, 32 yards, 39 yards, something around there. Like you were saying, you don't really have anyone else. Schultz did have a nice game, but he's not going to win you any games like that. So, yeah, I just think that it really is unfortunate for the Dallas Cowboys. I do think your defense could rally, and I do think that they can win you some games, especially when it comes to division games, but it's going to be very hard, and I think, the expectations are high every year for the Cowboys, and they're not going to meet them. They're not going to get close. I think it just sucks. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they, push on forward for the rest of the year, but it looks like their season is pretty much scrapped.
That's what they want us to do.
Well,
Mike McCarthy.
Okay.
He said just back us and keep believing in us.
I think it's hard to believe even before the season started. It was hard for anyone to believe. But in my opinion, I have a question for you. In your opinion, do you want them to go after Jimmy G, Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick?
By the time they learn the offense, it'll be like week 3, week 4.
You think that's too late with this division?
I think that's way too late.
Okay, who would you want to see?
I think Jimmy G.
Jimmy G?
Yeah, just because he's a really good game manager.
You could rally behind that offense?
I don't know.
Offensive line?
Out of everybody else, I just feel like I trust him more.
I would say he's the top priority if you want to go after.
I mean, I know we bag him a lot, but...
He's a very serviceable...
He's a serviceable quarterback,
yeah. Okay, going on to the next game. Another game with questionable offensive play. Packers and Vikings. What did you see in this game? How surprised are you with the Packers' performance?
I'm not surprised at all, if I'm being honest. I can't really be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think, after seeing it on Sunday, that the Vikings... I mean, like we always say, yes, it's one game, but I really do think from what I saw that they can run away with this division. Especially if the Packers are not really seeing eye to eye with Aaron Rodgers and his receivers.
Mm-hmm.
And after this year, I really do believe, like I told you on Twitter, that Jay Jettas will be the best receiver in football this year. Considering how Kevin O'Connell uses him, and you can literally see it from week 1, how his transition with Cooper Kupp and how he made him what he is today, and what he's going to make Justin Jefferson, who was already a star the moment he stepped on the field in 2020 as a rookie. But yes, I believe Aaron Rodgers will definitely miss Devontae Adams. And I do eventually think his wide receivers and him will kind of see eye to eye at some point in this season. Mm-hmm. It just depends on how long they take to do that. Because keep in mind, he has 2 receivers. He has 2 rookie receivers. He was missing Alan Lazard. And he has an aging Randall Cobb. And he also has a Robert Tonyan, who I believe isn't fully 100%, but he went out there because he knew his brother, A-Rod, was going to have a troubling time out there. But, I mean, like I said, only time will tell.
Yeah, I would say that I wouldn't be surprised as well. And even like I always said in the divisional predictions, I did say I could very easily see the Vikings sweeping the Packers this year. I think they're a matchup nightmare for the Packers, but I just think the Packers might be a little bit more consistent. And I do agree with you. I think the Packers are going to kind of rally again. And I think it's always week 1 in Green Bay. As you saw last year, 38 to 3 last year? Yeah, against the Saints. So I'm not really panicking right now. But what I am panicking on is Aaron Rodgers and his attitude. And as we know, for the past years, Aaron Rodgers has had problems with his head coaches, with players, young receivers. He's called them out a month ago. And then he was visibly upset in this game. And again, he has a right to be. And he even said in the postgame that he was more upset, not with the physical mistakes, but the mental mistakes. Like running the wrong routes, whatever, missing assignments. And that was evident a lot on 4th down. No one was turning their heads around and stuff like that. So I do agree, and I do understand why he's upset. But I just think that it's gonna suck for these young receivers if they don't get it done fast. He's not a Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers is not a Peyton Manning. He's not an Andrew Luck, where he'll make you feel comfortable. If you don't provide for him, he's gonna get upset and he's gonna show it, and it's gonna be all over the media. So I think that these receivers are just gonna have to learn fast, and it is kind of worrying because Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb are vets. They should be aware. They should know better. They didn't perform well at all. But with the Vikings looked amazing. I think the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell really, it seems like he lit a fire under this team. Kirk Cousins looked very, very good. Justin Jefferson, I feel like by the end of this year, we're going to be talking about him as the #1 receiver in the NFL. 2 touchdowns, 184 yards, 9 receptions. They ran the ball, the defense was very, very good against the run. They got off the field a lot. They sacked Aaron Rodgers 4 times. 2 interceptions, I believe. Yeah, or was it 2 interceptions? 1 interception, 1 fumble that they forced.
Yes,
I think so. Yeah. So they're very, very good. I think it's gonna be interesting to see. Like we were saying, the Vikings lost a lot of close games last year, and now that you have a new head coach in there, you see what your offense is providing for you. I think Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook are going to get going later on this year. And I think that it's going to be very exciting to see how they perform. But I just think it was very head-scratching to see the Packers come out like this and see it visibly, how they were upset. Anything else you have to say about this game?
No. I think we covered it.
Okay. Next game, Raiders and Chargers. Now, this was a game that was probably circled on everybody's calendars when the season came out. Oh, excuse me, when the schedule came out, week 1. Raiders, Chargers, big division rivals, and the Chargers look like the better team pretty much the entire game. What do you see in this game, little man? Are you concerned about the Raiders at all?
I feel like there's one big concern that should be in bold letters, is utilizing, or where did Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller's targets go, all from last year. I feel like it's just like Devontae Adams can't be the only person he looks at. I get it, that's your best friend, you've been through thick and thin with him, but you just can't forget. It feels like every time he snapped it, that was the first person he's looked at, was Devontae Adams. And don't get me wrong, Bryce Callahan played a hell of a game on Renfrow, but you could just tell when he tried to force it to him. And then one of the Derek Carr's picks is when he tried to fit it into a very tight window with Darren Waller.
Yeah.
It's just like you could feel he was just shying away from them. And when he tried to fit it to them in tough situations, it didn't go his way. As for the Chargers, I thought Herbert looked really good. No turnovers. But I thought some of his reads were questionable. And I feel like most of that came with when Keenan Allen went out of the game. Shout out to him, though, for using all his weapons like DeAndre Carter, Josh Palmer. As we said, he was going to be a big... Gerald Everett, yes, scored the touchdown. McKitty, the big tight end rookie. It's just he's really good at getting in the ball. He spreads it everywhere. And like we said about the Chargers down the stretch, this is why you get Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson, because at the end of games, they make plays. Whether it's a pick. Well, yeah, J.C. Jackson, hopefully he's on the field too. But with Khalil Mack, I got the strip sack for the win. And I thought that defense really did pull it together. Granted, their defense was literally bend, don't break. Because our offense was just really stagnant for almost most of the second half. And the defense was giving them the ball back with 3 picks. I believe a fumble as well. But, I mean, it was really just the defense. And I feel like that was a huge problem last year, was the defense. And I thought they stepped up pretty big on Sunday.
Yeah, I think if you look at the Chargers, they don't win this game last year. In a hostile environment, even though you're at home, you have a bunch of Raider fans around. Your number one wide receiver gets hurt. Mike Williams... He's not really producing. You have Devontae Adams on the other side, and this game last year, you do not like. You're not even coming close in this game, honestly. But Carr, I think Derek Carr, he did show some flashes, but they were only to Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams had a monster game. Him and Asante Samuel were battling. They were going at it, and it was really nice to see the young corner really kind of showing up and showing out against Devontae Adams, even though Adams got him on a few routes, but. Going back to Carr, I think Carr, 2 of his interceptions, they were very, very bad. 2 very underthrown balls, especially the one to Devontae Adams in the end zone. They're just completely underthrown. But like I was saying, again, in the prediction video, it's pretty hard to get your guys the ball. How everyone was saying, who's going to cover Waller? Who's going to cover Renfrow? Adams. It's like, yeah, but you need time for those plays to develop. You need protection. You need to be comfortable in your own pocket. Derek Carr isn't necessarily a Justin Herbert or a Josh Allen or a Mahomes where he could run around and have all these arm angles and just get the ball to his players. He needs a clean pocket. And the Raiders are not providing that at all. And as you were saying, Joey Bosa had a sack. Khalil Mack had 3. I think James had 1, right? Derwin James had a sack as well. So it's like all their best players on defense were getting sacks, and the Raiders' offensive line could not protect Derek Carr at all. But yeah, I think Herbert, as you were saying, was spreading the ball very well. After Keenan Allen got hurt and Mike Williams was not producing at all. So I do think that this was just a very kind of sloppy game, as all games were this week. And I do think that it was really nice to see the Chargers pull out with this game because it was a scare. It was getting close later on, or late in that game. But the Raiders defense, they stepped up big, and that's all you could ask for in week 1. The next game we're going to go ahead with is the Eagles and the Lions. Probably the most entertaining game of the weekend. Very high scoring, a lot of touchdowns. Fantasy owners must have been happy in this game. Go ahead and see what you saw with this team, or with this game.
I think the only negative thing I have about the Eagles is, yes, they brought in all these guys on defense, but I still thought they struggled. But then again, that's usually what you see from almost a completely new defense, from what it is. A lot of guys still trying to work well with each other, a lot of communication issues that you can see that happened on Sunday. No, like I said, eventually I think they'll get it together. And I really do think the Lions are still going to be that team to compete, but obviously way better than what they were last year. And if Jared Goff is able to contain his turnovers and not give the team the ball that much, I really do think they'll have a chance. Not as being the, playoff, maybe sneaking into the playoffs. I mean, I think that's still a stretch, but, I mean, you never know. The NFC is still wide open, so you really never know. But I still do think the Eagles, they might have a lot of questions right now. I know you were kind of saying, a lot of things didn't go right, but it's literally only one game. So, and especially with the way this division is now shaping up with Dallas being shook. The Giants did look impressive, but then again, it's still week one and a new head coach. They're still trying to figure things out. And then the Commanders, I still don't know. They're not better than the Eagles, to me, in my opinion. I still think they're more complete. So I really do think at this moment, it's their division to lose.
Okay. What do you see with the Lions?
The Lions?
Yeah, what did you see? Okay, so the Lions on offense, right? Rushing, they had 181 yards. Was that surprising to you?
Not really.
No, it wasn't surprising to you? It was surprising to me. It was very surprising.
Because I was watching the game, and you can kind of see it in Hard Knocks too. I felt like one of the big things this year for them was obviously the running backs, but also their offensive line. I thought that was a really big strength for them this year. And that was mostly why a lot of people think that DeAndre Swift is going to have a huge year.
Big year.
Was because of his offensive line.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I was very surprised with how this defense played. Let me just say this is the sloppiest and most head-scratching 38-point win I've ever seen in my life. I just think that this defense, again, as you were saying, a lot of offseason moves and adding a lot of players on that defense, that's fine. But Jonathan Gannon, our defensive coordinator, is still very, very bad. In his personnel issues, as he was last year, in his personnel issues, Jordan Davis was only on the field for 20 snaps, I believe. And when he was in there, Jordan Davis, the rookie, big guy, 6'6", 350 pound, whatever, however big he is.
Jesus.
When he was on the field, they only allowed 3 yards of rush. When he was off the field, 10 yards of rush. He's clogging up holes, allowing your new linebackers to get in there and make tackles. When he wasn't in there, this defensive line, this front seven, is a worry. Now, the secondary is getting kind of a bad rap in this game, but it really wasn't their fault. The defensive line was getting no pressure. On an offensive line, as you were saying, the Lions' offensive line is very, very good and very physical, but they're also missing 2 starters. And you don't get any pressure. You only get 1 sack, very little pressure on them, and you allow a bunch of yards on the ground, which, again, they are a very good team. Their running backs are very good. Their offensive line is very physical, but you expect more from this defense. Now to the offense, as you guys know, or you guys may not know, I'm not a big Jalen Hurts guy. I like Jalen Hurts. I want him to succeed. I wish him nothing but the best. But this man won us the game. Watching this game on offense, the offensive line was run blocking on pass plays, and he was running RPOs. They were run blocking on pass plays. Devontae Smith was running downfield, blocking 15 yards, and got hit in the head with the ball. This offense was out of sync. They did not know what was going on. A lot of people like to harp on Jalen Hurts and saying he only has one read or he doesn't stay in the pocket. This game was not it. He was making plays. He converted 10 third downs with his legs or his arm. And they were blitzing him about 50% of the time. The offensive line was making horrible reads and they were miscommunicating. And he had one guy to look to, and it was A.J. Brown. Tying his career high in yards, 155 yards, 10 catches. And I just have to say, Hurts won us this game. Nick Sirianni's still a very, very good head coach. Him and Dan Campbell were very, very good. But this kind of was the tale of 2 different teams, right? The Lions all about grit, and the Eagles are also a very gritty team, but they weren't prepared. I feel like the Lions just had talent. They didn't have enough talent, and the Eagles had too much. That's the only reason why we won this game. That's honestly how I feel. But yeah, I just think Hurts won us this game. He was great using his legs, and he wasn't doing it unnecessarily. We needed his legs for this game. All right, guys. So coming up, we're gonna have 3 separate segments. First one is gonna be, who are you more impressed with when it comes to the NFC South? The Saints or the Buccaneers? Who do you think has the edge right now? Even though it's a very, very early prediction or early analysis, what do you think about these 2 teams?
I think right now it's the Saints. I think the Saints offense can easily turn it around. They can go from one half being bad to the second half being a completely new team. I thought it really came down to the O-line on Sunday. I felt like that's why it was really bad for them, or really hard to move the ball, because Jameis really had no time. Because I saw a lot of plays where literally the whole team, like Olave, Jarvis Landry, and Michael Thomas were open, but it's just the O-line was really struggling. And I believe they paid Cesar Ruiz, the guard, big money before that game, and it's just to see them struggle like that was kind of questionable. But the Bucs, their offensive line is way more questionable than the Saints, considering I believe they have 3 rookies or 2 rookies on there. But they didn't impress me too much because not a lot of big plays happened for them. I mean, it was really that 148-yarder to Julio Jones. And to me, that was it. But I feel like that team is built off of big plays. So I think in the end, and they also lost Chris Godwin, who I think they'll miss. And hopefully he gets better because you really don't want those injuries to linger too much. And now I believe Mike Evans is hurt. They're saying that he has a questionable leg injury. That I'm not sure really what it is. But when Brady doesn't have a lot of time, it's never going to end well. He either throws the ball away or just takes a sack. Considering at his age, his legs don't got it no more. But yes, I think going back to the Saints, I think their defense can keep them in a lot of games. And with the Bucs, I feel like we just haven't seen their defense at its full potential, considering they played Dallas, who really doesn't have an explosive offense as they did last year. So, I mean, they meet week 2, so I guess we'll see what really goes down then.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose the Saints as well. I do think that they are very good across the board when it comes to the skill positions. I think the Bucs are just too injured. Chris Godwin hurting his hamstring after coming off an ACL tear just 8 months ago. Mike Evans is also banged up. I think that Julio Jones is going to need time to get better in this offense. I don't know how well you could build off of that when your offensive line is hurt. Tom Brady is 45 years old, and I trust him no matter what, no matter how old he is, no matter how many games he plays. But at some point, you're going to have to worry about this. I do think that if they were a healthy team, I think right now they certainly have the edge on the Saints. But right now, it's just kind of scary for them. Leonard Fournette did look very, very well. 141 yards, physical, was just pounding the Cowboys defense. Even though the Cowboys defense were very, very good, he still got it done. But yeah, right now I'm still gonna have to go with the Saints. I do agree with you, but it's very early on. I think if the Bucs get a little bit healthier, they're gonna have this division on lock. But it's gonna be interesting. We're kind of gonna follow these 2 teams throughout the year and see how they do pairing up with each other.
Moving on to the next segment, who was more disappointing in NFL Week 1? The Cincinnati Bengals or the San Francisco 49ers? And why?
I would say, all right, first let me compare the 2. One was in sloppy conditions, very, very rainy.
Yeah.
You have a new quarterback in there. A lot of, it isn't really a very dynamic offense either. And you are playing the Bears, though. The Bears were expected to be the worst team in the NFL. They obviously might still be. Yeah, I probably had them too. But I think I'm going to cut them some slack because they have a brand new quarterback in there. And it's one of his first starts and it's under bad conditions. But I'm going with the Bengals. I think the Bengals are the more disappointing team. Even though they almost pulled out with the win, you make a lot of moves in the offseason to fix up your offensive line, which is by far your biggest weakness, right? You still allow 7 sacks. Also with that, besides the penalty, which would have made it 6 turnovers, you had 5 turnovers in total. Joe Burrow did not look good. He had a lot of boneheaded interceptions, a fumble. TJ Watt was everywhere on the field. You know, he had an interception and a few sacks on him. So I'm going to go with the Bengals. I think you have too good of an offense. You have a very good defense. You are playing the Steelers, who don't look very good or very sexy, if you will, on paper. And then you also faced the Steelers late in the game. TJ Watt and Najee Harris got bad injuries, and you still didn't win the game. So I'm going to have to go with the Bengals. They were the more disappointing team this weekend. Yeah, I'm cutting the Niners some slack.
I'm going to have to go 49ers here.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because, yes, the conditions are bad, but no one on the Bears has probably played in a game that bad.
That is
the
true.
field was wet and just grimy and disgusting. And it's also like the 49ers had chances to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
As for the Bears, I mean, a lot of people had wrote them off from winning that game, but their defense made a lot of good plays because of Trey Lance. I thought his decision making, regardless of the weather, was pretty questionable. Deebo Samuel, who also, he only had 2 catches, but he did have 8 rushing yards. But I mean, the weather, you could say that kind of differed how many catches he had. He was targeted 8 times. Sorry. But yeah, I do have to go. Yes, the Bengals did look disappointing, especially
horrible.
I wouldn't say so much the Bengals themselves. I'd say Joe Burrow.
No,
I thought he was going to throw them into that loss with his 4 picks. 4 picks, right? Their defense held it together for them to win that game, but then both of the team's kickers just decided to poop the bed. And as for the 49ers, I don't know. At what point do you think? Yes, it's week 1, but a lot of fans are saying they're kind of questioning Trey Lance as a starter right now. So at what point do you think that they would consider bringing Jimmy G back as a starter?
Okay.
They also lost Elijah Mitchell. So
yeah. And no George Kittle.
And Kittle's hurt.
So I'm cutting them some slack. But but I do think at some point...
some slack against Equinemius.
Listen, hang on. I cut him... okay, when it comes to Jimmy G and Trey Lance, I do think that Trey Lance does need to improve quickly because they have a win-now team. They have a good defense, very good run offense, a lot of weapons on the outside. And Jimmy G, he's proven that he could get them close to the Super Bowl, or if not, get them to the Super Bowl. So... I do think that he's going to have to adjust quickly. But right now, I'm not hitting the panic button. He still has another big game this weekend against the Seahawks, right? So I think that he's still going to have another chance to prove himself. Then we could worry about them. But I'm worrying about the defending Super Bowl or AFC champions who invested a lot in their offensive line, paid big money to Collins, and yet late in the game, and late in the game you see him on his back with his helmet off, and Joe Burrow's on the ground, and it's like, what exactly are you paying these guys all this money for?
His head to the face, though.
Doesn't matter. His helmet came off. He was on the floor looking at his quarterback. Doesn't matter, though, man. He got embarrassed. He got embarrassed. I don't care. I think that this game, I just think the Bengals were the more disappointing team. Are they not? What is your case for the Bengals? Why do you think... You even said it yourself.
Joe Burrow was going to throw them out of that
game.
Joe
Burrow's on that team.
Yeah, but you're making it seem like the whole Bengals team is horrible.
Yeah, they were horrible. The entire team was horrible. Or the entire offense was horrible.
Okay.
So the entire team so the entire team for the Niners was horrible. They only allowed 19 points.
To the Bears?
19 points.
To the Bears?
Yeah, it's below average in the NFL, by the way.
So putting up 19 points compared to 23 with what the Steelers have in Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and Mitch Biscuits Trubisky.
Oh, damn. That's a scary offense.
Justin Fields, Equinemius St. Brown,
Byron Pringle, Darnell Mooney, Montgomery.
And that O-line.
Bengals were disappointing.
Where was Nick Bosa?
You're only defending...
What was his stats?
He had a sack. He was good.
Eric Armstead.
He was there, I'm sure.
Fred Warner, he make plays?
You know what? Enough of this disappointment. Let's talk about who was more dominant. Let's talk about this. Two teams were very, very surprising in my opinion. And not because they won these games, but because of how they looked. The Bills and the Chiefs. Who would you say was the more impressive team this week 1? As we know, Bills mopped the floor with the Rams, and then the Chiefs came out, no Tyreek, and mopped the floor with the Cardinals. Who's more impressive?
I feel like to me this was kind of easy. I went with the Bills. Because of what they did to the defending champs, and they made them nervous from start to finish.
Okay.
And then, when you look at the Bills, they're probably the most complete team in the NFL. Especially if the three-headed back in James Cook and Devin Singletary and Zach Moss really works well, and they can stay consistent. And I have to give the Chiefs another week. Especially with who they played week 2. I have to give them another week to say that they look as dominant as they have been. Because they played the Cardinals, who are already injury-prone.
Okay.
Missing a lot of players already. And yes, they did. The offense did look maybe even better without Tyreek Hill, but I won't go as far as that. But like I said, I have to give them another week, considering who they played.
Okay, so the keyword when you said, when you were explaining why the Bills, you said the most complete team. That's why I'm not really going with them, because I think that they were the more complete team against the Rams, and I think that we were kind of expecting this. We were expecting them to win the Super Bowl. We were expecting them to be the dominant team all this year. The Chiefs, all we were hearing about was how Tyreek Hill isn't there. This offense is going to struggle. This defense doesn't have a lot. Even coming from the words of you, from yourself. And how you're...
Is the question say the whole season or who's more dominant?
I'm putting context into it. And you're the one who brought up the Chiefs in the past. I'm not talking about the Chiefs in the past. I'm talking about the Chiefs right now. No Tyreek Hill. Your defense, as you were saying, and again, I was critical of the Chiefs. They didn't really add much on their defense. But yeah, when the game was in hand, they only had allowed 7 points to the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, who just got paid a lot of money. You have Hollywood Brown, who you were saying, and again, don't look at this. You were picking them to be very, very good in the NFC West, the Cardinals. So the team that you picked to be very, very good, the Chiefs came in there, only allowed 7 points when the game was in hand. They ended up
How many people are
with 21 points. It doesn't matter. The Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill. You know what the man Patrick Mahomes did? 30 for 39, 360 yards, 5 touchdowns. Spread the ball around. Oh, and they ran the ball pretty